Gottlieb, you know everybody in college sports. I think Dabo looks like a really nice, fun guy. Is he? Do you know him?
What is the term that is used? He's a force multiplier, right?
What's that? What do you mean?
What's the little Jets coach who's on
Rex Ryan?
No. Who's also Cleveland Browns head coach, former Patriot.
Eric Mangini.
Eric Mangini. I'm sorry. Eric's a friend of ours.
Yes,
We've worked together at multiple places. I'm sorry, Eric. I blanked for a second. He calls it a force multiplier. So I got to do a show last year from Clemson. A college football show from Clemson. And so I went there, and I know the basketball guys really, really well.
Yeah.
I know a couple of the football guys, a couple of the guys in the athletic department.
Yeah.
And I said, like, what's the deal with Dabo? And they said, when he was the remember he was a wide receiver coach before he became the interim coach, before he became the head coach.
That's right.
When he was the wide receiver coach, he was the office that all the guys, non-wide receivers, just stop by. He just has a magnet. He has the it, if you will.
Yeah.
He's a force multiplier. He walks into a room, and to all of us, on the West Coast or maybe the East Coast, maybe some of the God stuff feels hokey, but it is real for him.
Yeah.
And people are, and they use the term all in. They are all in. Now, look, it's fair to say the ACC stinks, and they actually haven't played their best football yet. And I don't think they have to play their best football to win the ACC and to get to another college football playoff. But the Dabo Swinney thing is real. It is legit.
But here's the other thing, Doug. Coaches don't leave him. Like we all know.
Well, Brent Venables is a guy who could take a head coaching job. Now, he gets compensated at a level of a head coaching job, and he doesn't have the pressure. And you work for an amazing guy who is about the right things. He is a force multiplier.
So I defended Baker Mayfield today. I don't do this much, and my takeaway is: listen, quarterbacking is hard for veterans. It's impossible for young kids. And Josh Allen is absolutely benefiting, as is Lamar, with a good owner, a good GM, a good coach, a good offensive line. Bills rebuilt their whole line. So you're asking now, this is why OBJ to Cleveland's tough. So you're asking Baker Mayfield. You've got a GM who got fired in Kansas City. If it doesn't work here, he's not getting another job, and those jobs pay a lot of money. Got a coach who's never been a coach. You've got to now have, until 2 weeks ago, David Njoku, Nick Chubb, worst part of the team offensive line, Jarvis Landry, and OBJ. OBJ tends to demand the ball. I'm going to defend Baker on this. You're asking a 23-year-old kid with 10 starts, hey, run the franchise. I think Cleveland's done a crappy job with Baker.
I would agree. We all like to read.
Right.
Remember Freakonomics?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the idea of Freakonomics is that you take all the statistical analysis and you're more likely to or less likely to succeed in life based upon certain factors, right? Education, parents' education, parents' divorce, married, whatever. Think about this from an NFL Freakonomics perspective. Are you more or less likely to succeed when you have, first, a 6-foot quarterback, second, a 6-foot quarterback who hasn't started a full season in the NFL, a rookie head coach, a rookie head coach who's also calling plays? You ask anybody who has called plays as a head coach, and they'll say it's a lot. And remember, he's not in that meeting room all week long. Todd Monken is, and then he parachutes in and calls plays. So there's a little, it seems like a little lack of synergy there, lack of creativity there. Then you add in Odell Beckham Jr., who I do feel, I agree with you here. It's a lot like when Randy Moss and Dante Culpepper. Remember Dante Culpepper used to try and gun the ball to Randy Moss all the time?
Yeah.
And ultimately, along with fumbling and a knee injury, was Dante Culpepper's downfall. I think there's a little bit of that. I just think that Cleveland has made this path harder instead of easier.
Yes.
If you look at the statistical analysis of likelihood of success between John Dorsey, and he's a guy who, even go back to Kansas City, it was talent above character in terms of who he would draft and who he would acquire.
Yeah.
It's skill position instead of offensive line. All of these things leaves you less likely to succeed, along with the fact that they've never really won there.
Yes.
Right? There's no culture of winning if you haven't won. If 7-8-1 is a great season, that's not a winning culture. So you put all this together, and it's a lot for Baker. It's a lot for anybody. And I don't think he's played well. I think the league has figured out he can't see because he is small. He does move, and he's not crazy athletic. And then they have other flaws on that team, including their play caller, who's their head coach, who's inexperienced across the board. And I think that's why they're off to a disappointing start.
Yeah, no, we really agree on that. And this is why I say I'm not anti-Baker. There's stuff he does that's nonsense. But, boy, if you watch how Buffalo is using Josh Allen, because we pay attention to Lamar, people will watch Buffalo for the first time this season. They have done an amazing job. Yes. They went and got 3 free agent offensive linemen. They drafted an offensive lineman. I mean, they really said, we're going to keep the scores low. We're going to run the ball, and we're going to ask you to make about 2 big throws again. In fact, oftentimes in the red zone, they don't even ask Josh to throw. They roll out running backs and let him run. Like Buffalo has figured out, let's make this kid from Wyoming.
Right.
Let's make it work.
It doesn't have to do with the Wyoming. It's a guy who's inaccurate, right?
Yeah.
And look, Baltimore, and I don't know if Baltimore ultimately Lamar works because he's so inaccurate as was exposed. But the fact is they're trying to tailor it to him. But you go back to Baker, and I know that you're trying to absolve some of the blame from Baker, but you even go back to what he said about Rex Ryan and how he punched back about Rex Ryan. Like, okay, if you want to say, quote your head coach, if you're not wearing orange and brown, you don't matter. That's fine. But to say like, hey, Rex Ryan's not wearing team colors for a reason, he's not coaching for a reason. Like, who does that as a quarterback in the NFL? Who does that? And that's the side of nastiness that you just don't need. No one else does for a reason.
Yeah. No, I got a text from somebody in Ohio who covers Baker Mayfield for a living this morning, a talk show host, and he said, this is all body armor. Nobody's that. If anybody in your life was that defensive, you wouldn't go, well, they're just very strong. You'd go, what are they insecure about? Doug Gottlieb, the Duggar at Fox Sports Radio after our show. He's texted Aaron Rodgers before, so they're very close. I have not. Aaron hates me. I do think Philadelphia is more desperate. They get Alshon Jeffrey back, their left tackle. I don't think Green Bay's really faced a legit offense, so their defense is good. It's not quite as good as we think. It's faced Flacco and Trubisky and Kirk Cousins. I think Philadelphia desperate comes in and wins a great game tonight on Fox. Very close. I know.
Listen, Philadelphia's had the drops. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey will help.
Two of them.
Nelson Aguilar dropped what would have been a game-winning touchdown pass in Atlanta 2 weeks ago, and they had 7 or 8 drops last week.
Yes.
Wentz is playing better than I think some of the highlights would tell you.
Yeah, and I think the numbers say he's 4-7 in winnable games. He should be 6-5. Aguilar dropped the ball, and the other kid, the rookie from Stanford, had a catch. So, again, sometimes numbers kind of lie. Yeah. Like, Carson's better than his numbers.
Well, I think that the issue here is, and I understand what you're saying about the offense that Green Bay is facing. I think Green Bay's defense is legit. You look at them leading the league in takeaways so far this season. The question is the offense, isn't it?
It's 37 possessions, only 7 touchdowns. Now, some of that's the defense, but Doug, you pointed out during the break, some of these drives of theirs are
averaging 5 plays per drive.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah. 5 and out is not, you would think, especially running the football, there'd be more long, sustained drives. Now, some of it, I had John Elway on yesterday on my show.
How was he?
He was great, and he said, look, our biggest issue is that we've been behind the entire season. We're always behind, and so that changes your play calling.
Yes,
it shouldn't, but you know how football guys are. Yeah. They let's throw away the game plan. We're behind now. Oh my God, we got to freak out. Whereas Green Bay, they've led all but 6 minutes, so they've played relatively conservatively. They've run the football 44% of the time. I'd be intrigued to see if we'll see a shootout. Look, I thought Aaron has owned it. The fact that his side of the football
I like that.
has not carried their water.
Yeah.
I'm not sure their offense is as talented as people would lead you to believe, especially at tight end. You have Mercedes Lewis and, who's over the hill. And, I mean, you have 2 tight ends who 5 years ago would be great, Jimmy Graham, but don't appear to be those guys anymore.
But they didn't. Devontae Adams last week disappeared. I think that's a little bit on Green Bay's coaches. They never targeted him.
Yeah, so, and look, it's only 3 games into an offense which they didn't play together in live action in a preseason game. Right. So there is a curve there. I actually like where Green Bay is. I like that they gave him a defense.
Yeah.
Years ago, I was with Tony Romo, and I was telling him the story about how my daughter had to do like famous Mexican-American. And I'll never forget when we were at the other place, my daughter fell in love with Tony Romo because Fox always does these close-up shots of people's faces.
Yeah.
And she woke up from a nap. She's like, who's that boy, Daddy? I was like, that's Tony Romo. She's like, I like Tony Romo. She's like Tony Romo. She started throwing the football like Tony Romo.
Yeah.
So I told her the story and about how boys in class made fun of when she was like in 3rd grade. She did a report on him. And I armed her with Tony Romo's the best fourth-quarter quarterback in the history of the NFL and all this other stats. And he goes, look, none of it really matters that much. It's like, you know what matters? You better have a top 10 defense. It's like, go track who makes the Super Bowl, who wins the Super Bowl. All of us have a top 10 defense. Nobody wins with a bad defense.
Or the second thing is, and people don't think about this, a bad owner.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it. But look, the idea is the offense is great, and you do need a competent offense. And if you have a guy who can make plays and win you games, win you a playoff game, that's huge. But no one wins without a defense. No one. And the Green Bay Packers, when they had Dom Capers, the talent wasn't good with previous previous front office issues, with previous coaching staff and the previous style. Mike Pettin and Gutekunst and this front office has loaded them up. They're really, really good on defense. Yeah. The question is offensively, when will it click, or will it click? Will Aaron buy into the system, and can he find a way to be the best version of himself within it? We don't know. And tonight should be a good opportunity, because the Eagles have really lacked a pass rush so far this year.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd, or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.